Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt, joined by United States Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning, Senator Cotton. Did you watch that debate last night?
No, Hugh. I have a life, so I watched the Washington Nationals beat the St. Louis Cardinals to clinch a spot in the World Series. So congratulations to the Nationals. Too bad for the Cardinals. Very popular in Arkansas. They had a great season, but hats off to the Nationals.
Well, I got to tell you that the Cardinals had a better night than Tom Steyer. He was so miserable. Look, I honestly wonder, do they talk this way? There's Booker, Kamala Harris, Senator Warren, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden. Do they talk this way in person? Because they're just nuts.
Yeah, Hugh, although I did not watch this debate, I have already seen some clips from it on the morning news, and I watched some of the previous debates. It seems to me that, once again, for the fourth consecutive time, the undisputed winner of the Democratic debate is President Trump.
Yep. And what's interesting to me, last night they thought that the country has a neuralizer from Men in Black, and they don't remember why we're in Syria in the first place is because President Obama pulled out of Iraq in 2011. The Black Flag JVs ran over the country from Syria. We had to fight them back, and we're in Kurdistan. Would you tell us your assessment of what has happened in the last 10 days in Turkey?
Well, that's unfortunately true, Hugh, and you really can't understand what's happened in the last 10 days unless you go back to the roots of the conflict in Syria, and especially the way we fought against the Islamic State. In 2014, President Obama made a decision to use as a proxy force the Kurdish organization, the People's Protection Group, or YPG, in Syria. They've been good partners. We've helped them defeat the Islamic State, not just for our sake, but for their sake. It was on their territory. That's why we helped arm them and fought alongside them, providing critical intelligence and aerial support. Unfortunately, they are ethnically related to and politically aligned with the PKK, a Kurdish group inside Turkey, which is a separatist organization that both the Turkish government and the U.S. government identifies as a terrorist organization. That's why President Erdogan from Turkey has said all along he cannot tolerate an autonomous zone on his border of the Syrian Kurdish organizations that are aligned with that domestic separatist group. So what you've seen over the last 10 days has its roots in the decision we made in 2014. Now, President Erdogan, as I understand it, gave certain assurances to President Trump a couple of weekends ago about the operation he had long stated he was going to conduct in terms of protecting civilians, not going very far into Turkish territory, maintaining the security of ISIS prisoners. It seems like those assurances have not been upheld, and that's one reason why the president imposed those sanctions a few days ago, and while Turkey now faces the prospect of congressional sanctions.
All of the Democrats last night said President Trump green-lighted this invasion. Victoria Coates, who you know, was on the show, said absolutely he did not green-light this invasion. What's your understanding, Senator Cotton?
So Victoria, as the Deputy National Security Advisor, would be in a better place to know personally than I, since she may have very well been on the phone call or been present for the phone call that he had with President Erdogan. I can tell you, though, I have spoken with high-ranking officials, the highest-ranking officials, and they've all disputed that it was green-lighted last weekend. And if you look at the president's statement from last weekend, he didn't say that they approved it. In fact, he said, we don't support it. We told them it was a bad idea. And it is a bad idea from Turkey's standpoint. You can just see that in the amount of condemnations they faced from their own NATO allies and their trading partners, the sanctions the president has already imposed, and the sanctions that Congress is likely to impose. Our military had worked with the Turkish military over the last 60 to 90 days to try to address those legitimate concerns they have. And that's cooperation through joint patrols on the border was beginning to work. President Erdogan of Turkey short-circuited that, unfortunately. I know the vice president and the secretary of state are flying to Turkey, I believe today, I know this week, to meet with President Erdogan to try to convince him why it is not in his interest to pursue this any further, but rather to call a halt and a ceasefire and allow diplomacy and joint security arrangements to both address the legitimate security concerns he has and the concerns we have in Syria, which is the detention of those ISIS prisoners and to prevent Iran from militarizing its foothold inside of Syria.
All right, let me finish by asking you about impeachment. The carnival last night began with a warm-up volleyball round of questions asked by Anderson Cooper. More softball questions than I've ever seen. Hunter Biden, et cetera. I don't think I can keep you, can I, Senator? That's too bad, because I'm out of time.
Unfortunately, no.
All right, we'll come back and we'll talk about impeachment. Is impeachment a real threat, do you believe? They treated it real last night. I think Americans think they're nuts.